The fate of Russia's figure skater Kamila Valieva is in the balance after she failed a drugs test in December.
The 15-year-old helped the Russian Olympic Committee team take first place earlier in the week, although the gold medal hasn't yet been awarded. She's been allowed to train again after appealing against suspension. Russia has raised concerns over the length of time that the testing agency took to announce the result. The IOC says it will come up with a ruling before Valieva's next competition on Tuesday. Well, Patrick Rishe is the director of the Sports Business Programme at Washington University in St. Louis, and he joins us now. Thanks for being with us today, Patrick. So tell us, how did this happen and who is to blame, given that the athlete we're talking about here is very young, a minor?
Well, I think there's a lot of blame to spread. Even though the athlete is a minor, this is an individual that's been competing in these high-level competitions, so she's got to take some responsibility knowing what's going in her body. But I would also say that I would be willing, because it is a minor, to put a little bit more blame on, say, the parents, the coach. There's a lot of blame to spread around in this unfortunate incident.
And it comes, of course, against a backdrop of sporting sanctions against Russia for previous doping infringements. Do you think there will be further action taken now?
Well, there should be. Again, there's, in my view, there is a degree of irresponsibility that needs to be addressed. And we thought that this had been addressed in the past, and yet again, it rears its ugly head. You hope that for the young athlete, to what degree she is to blame, we can only speculate, but we hope that in terms of how do you manage the damage going forward, that she's forthcoming, that she is honest, and that's going to be a big answer to how people are going to view her going forward. Because let's face it, with these young women in figure skating, it's winning these golds that can set them up for future endorsement earnings. But obviously, with this stain, that's going to potentially limit her endorsement earnings going forward.
And what about the way that the samples were taken and the timing of the results? Do you think that Russia has a point that this doesn't really add up?
Well, I mean, you can quibble about the way that this took place. But again, I look at it this way. When you have the track record, the doping track record that Russia has, that somewhat puts you in a little bit of a difficult position to be overly critical with how the World Anti-Doping Agency will handle its business. Again, nothing is ever handled perfectly. But again, I just find it's very awkward for Russia to complain in this way, because, again, their history in this area is very substandard, as you know.
And does this now open her or her team up to potential legal action under U.S. anti-doping rules?
Well, it very much could. Again, the rules are rules. And unfortunately for this young athlete, whether or not she knowingly or unwittingly was ingested this substance, this is something that the Russian Federation, coaches, parents should have been aware of what was going on. We see this in other sports as well, where we've seen, going back a few years ago, Rishe, who was an established elite world athlete, ingested something, claims she didn't know. We still don't know whether that's accurate or not. We don't know whether that's true with this figure skater. But yes, because rules were broken, you could see that this could be something that is going to be tried in the courts.
So what do you think should happen next? She's back training. Should she be allowed to compete?
I don't know how you let her compete. If there is a finding that there was a mishandling, if the process was mishandled, that's one thing. But because there is a rule that's been violated, and we're talking about the highest level of competition, everyone's supposed to play by the same rules. I don't know under that guise how you are going to allow her to compete.
And she really is an extraordinary athlete, though. She landed this quadruple axel, the first time that's happened. Won't the games be poorer for her not taking part?
Well, certainly that is true. And I would hope that even though that's true, and we know that the IOC, unfortunately, sometimes is governed and motivated in some of their decisions, not just from the spirit of the game, but from the dollars and cents of the game. But really, we need to focus in this particular case on whether a rule was broken. If it was, she shouldn't be allowed to compete. It is, a delicate thing. We see things happen at these games all the time where, in some cases, it's an athlete like Kamila Valieva that has unfortunately performed at a subpar level so far. But this is going to hurt the business of the games. There's not much you can do about that. I'd hate to see the IOC get her back in just simply because they're worried about their bottom line. But I should know better. Sometimes that is about the dollars and cents. So we'll see what happens. I believe she should not compete the rest of the Olympics because of this test.
OK, Patrick Rishe from Washington University in St. Louis, thanks very much indeed.